everyone, and good morning! Welcome to Let's Do Research with Dr. S. This is Dr. Sara Damoco, and I am your friend in your research journey. In this video, we shall be learning the different strategies for determining sample size. According to scholars, determining the sample size of your study to answer the research question is very important. It is not just important, but it is very important. Because of this, the sample size of any study should be carefully planned and designed so that ample number of participants will be employed to sufficiently address the research question. Okay, you see, you just don't size of your sample, but it has to be carefully planned. Now, scholars emphasize that studies that have either too small number or too large number of participants are both non-contributive in terms of participant, the researcher's time and energy, and the cost to conduct the study. Meaning that if you want your study to have very small number of participants or you want to have a big number of participants, it does not mean anything. What it implies to say is that your number of participants should be ample enough to answer the research question of your study. Now, there are different strategies for determining the sample size. First in the list for the strategies in determining the sample size is using census for small population. This is applicable if the population is small. For example, the population is 200 individuals or less. The strength of this strategy is that it lessens the possibility of sampling errors and it allows provision of data on all the individuals in the population. However, it is costly and it is time-consuming. Again, this strategy is applicable only if you have a small population, say less than 200. The second in the list is using a sample size of a similar study. So for example, you are replicating someone else's study. So whatever is the sample size of that study, then that's the same sample size that you are going to employ in your research. However, the disadvantage of this is that if you don't review the methods used in that study that you are benchmarking, you may run the risk of repeating the errors that were made in that study. However, if you are going to do a good literature review in this discipline, it can provide a good supervision about the typical sample size that you will use in your study. The third one is relying on published tables. The advantage, of course, is that you rely on published tables, you don't need to do calculations anymore. However, the weakness is that the assumption for normal distribution must be satisfied. If your population or if your sample is not normally distributed, then you should include all the population as your sample. So what are these samples of published tables? First in the list is Ed.D. and Morgan in 1970. Ed.D. and Morgan, they have already identified the corresponding sample for a given population. For example, the population is 10, then the sample is also 10. The population, for example, is 100, then the sample is 80 here. If the population is 2,000, then the sample is 332. You see, it's easy. You just find the number of the population, and then corresponding to that is the number of the possible sample. Now, another table is that of Green in 1991. Green based his computation on the power of 80%. He benchmarked this idea from Cohen in 1981. And then a significant level of 5%. That is why this is power of 0.8 and alpha of 0.05. Now, a table depends on the number of predictors in your model or in your theoretical framework or conceptual framework. Okay, let's go back to the theoretical framework which I have shown you in my previous video about conceptual and theoretical framework. For example, this framework of the theory of planned behavior. when you mean the number of predictors, it refers to the most number of predictors pointing to a dependent or endogenous variable. In this framework, you have two endogenous variables, the intention and the behavior. However, the endogenous which has the most number of predictors is intention, because behavior has only one predictor, whereas intention has three. Therefore, going back to Green's table, you have three predictors. And if your effect size is small, you will need 547 participants. But if you choose a medium effect size, you will need 76 participants. And if you choose a large effect size, then you will need 35 participants in your study. So how does the Green table differ from CRED-C? In CRED-C, you don't look at the power and the alpha and the number of predictors. You just need to know how many people are there in the population. But if you don't know the number of the population, how many people are there in the population, then you will go to Green's table, because in Green's table, you just need the framework or the model. You just need to identify which endogenous variable has the most number of predictors. The next strategy is the use of formula. The most common one is Sloven's formula and the Cochrane formula. Now, we don't need to go through these two formulas in detail, but the good thing is you will be able to understand the derivation of the sample based on this formula. However, if you are not a mathematics person, just like me, then it will be too numerical for me. But if you are good with mathematics, then you can just compute the number of sample based on the given population. The next strategy is the use of G-power calculator. For me personally, it is very convenient because you just have to click whichever information that you need. However, the weakness for this is that you need to identify the power, the effect size, and statistical technique that you are going to use. I will be creating a different video how to use G-power in determining the sample size. Now, I would like to bring you to the different references that I have used in developing this video. Please read through them and enjoy your research journey. Again, this is Dr. Sara Damoko, and I hope you had fun and great time enjoying and learning from this video. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.